All right, I think we're ready to get started. Once again, I'd like to welcome you to the MYWorld's 2030 Global Call for Partners webinar. We're very pleased to be having this call today, and we're very pleased as well to see the number of people who've responded to the invitation. We're sitting here in Bonn, Germany, in the SDG Action Campaign studio. We have the windows open. It's a lovely day. And so you may hear some bird noises. They're here as part of our Call for Partners. I think you can see my screen. Here we go. Excellent. Yes, so ready to get started. Thank you everybody for participating. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what we'll be covering in this call. The purpose of the call is to introduce the MYWorld 2030 opportunity and the resources to support implementing partners. We'll start by giving you a little bit of a background of the MYWorld's project and the SDG Action Campaign that's behind it. And we'll also talk about the very important role of partners in delivering on this project. Then we'll go on to explain a little bit more about the new MYWorld 2030 survey and what opportunities are for you to become partners as helping us to deliver on this campaign. Then we'll take you through some of the resources that are now available for doing your own online and offline campaigns, as well as some additional opportunities for you to get involved in spreading the word about SDGs and in engaging youth and advocacy. So without any further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce Mitchell Toomey, the director of the SDG Action Campaign. He's here with us and he's going to provide us with some of the background.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning and afternoon and evening, everyone around the world. Thanks again for joining us on this call. I wanted to give you a little bit of a background. Some of you may well know, but it's good to always have a little bit of a refresher. We are the SDG Action Campaign. This is a mandated outfit of the Secretary General to make sure that there are as many possible opportunities for people to participate in the SDG and the Agenda 2030 as possible. You may have some experience with us in the past when we were branded as the UN Millennium Campaign. From the last set of goals, the Millennium Development Goals, we ran a global campaign with the help of lots of partners to build and maintain the political will for achieving the SDGs and to expand the scope of advocacy and activism around the goals. Now that we're in this new phase, with the new name of the SDG Action Campaign, we continue to encourage popular ownership of the SDGs and increase stakeholder participation. But given that there has been an enormous amount of innovation and other developments in the past years, we've taken some of those innovations right into the campaign and merged the traditional activism and the traditional mobilizations with some measurability and some tools that really help to bolster that conversation. The MYWorld project started some time ago, and we originally had the first phase set up to support the negotiators who were coming up with the goals. This was a massive project that involved almost 10 million individuals being interviewed and having the chance to have their say in 194 countries. Most importantly, for the purposes of this call, that was only possible by the hard work of more than 1,000 partners and partner organizations around the world who saw this as an opportunity not only to go out and help the UN gather this information, but also to learn more about their community and the priorities and the levels of satisfaction that they have on the issues of the day. So this was a very successful exercise, especially with young people. 77% of the voters were 30 years or younger. And it was open source and had visualizations that everyone could participate in by registering as a partner and creating their own mini campaign within this larger group. So the key to success, again, was the partners. Now, we had a lot of technologies and technologies for showing the votes and so on, but there was also a great deal of innovation on mobile applications to collect votes and to using SMS and other means to collect them. But in the end, we found that over 80% of the votes were collected the old-fashioned way, as they may say, on paper ballots, going out into communities, on foot, talking to people in the communities. And that's the aspect of this that I think is really special and that would be very appealing to partners as we move into this next stage. Partners found that it was very valuable to have this working relationship with a UN project, and it allowed them to amplify their advocacy by showing that they were aligned with this larger global movement. So now as we move into MyWorld 2030, we have a new opportunity for our existing partners and for some new partners. Now, the word partners can mean a lot of different things, and sometimes it's about a large organization partnering with another large organization. But for the purposes of this project, a partner can be an individual, a student, a volunteer. It can be an NGO, a group of like-minded individuals. It can be a large company, private sector company, or whoever wishes to undertake the survey. What we'll do is and you'll see this a bit later, register those partners, give you a special code, an ID code that you can come up with, your team code or your partner ID, that will allow you to go out and collect votes and then register them under your ID and be credited for how many votes you've been able to collect, and also to be able to see just the votes that you've collected. So you'll see a little bit more about that. So, it's very important to understand how partnerships with the UN work as well. We have this luxury of being a mandated exercise by the Secretary General on behalf of the UN member states, and they expect us to follow the kind of the high level of high standards of the United Nations with respect to human rights, as well as with the clarity of how these projects are implemented. So we have the global project, and you're welcome to join into the global MyWorld. And we'll hear a couple of stories about how we've also seen national level MyWorlds emerging. Now, we have a great blog post on our sdgactioncampaign.org website about one of our partners in Mexico who's now undertaking MyWorld Mexico with the endorsement of government and the United Nations. And this is a very important factor. While we invite everybody to take part in the global project of MyWorld, if there is an interest in creating a national or even a citywide version of MyWorld, we're excited about that, but in order to call it and brand it something specific, it has to have the endorsement of either the member state government or of the municipal government, as the case may be. We also expect that partners who are working in country will reach out to the UN office in their country, and we'd be happy to support that and facilitate that to make sure that there's some awareness of what's happening. So this is the kind of the way we have to do things for being an official UN project. We have to respect the rights of the member states and work within their country only with permission. However, as an individual, using these basic questions, you can go out and do your own collections, and you can use that data that you collect as a form of your local advocacy and register it with the global MyWorld database. It will in fact become ready to view alongside all of the other collections from around the world. So we look forward to having partners who can move on with us beyond the basic MyWorld partnership and who have taken a special initiative to create their own national level project. But that's what you'll learn a little bit more about today. So I think that this is a wonderful opportunity for groups who are doing great work in the field to align with the UN and to have the endorsement of this project. But we have to be very careful about how that's deployed. And so the rest of the webinar will talk a little bit about the practicalities of that. So thank you again for joining us, and I'll hand back to Laura.
Thank you very much, Mitch. That's great. I completely agree that partners are absolutely at the heart of the success of this initiative. We cannot do it without partners. We're a small team based out of the UN headquarters in Bonn in New York, and we really count on you to make this initiative count. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to the new version of MyWorld, MyWorld 2030. It builds upon the original MyWorld 2015, which, as you know, is part of the post-2015 consultation process. And with the launch of the SDGs, now we want to build on that momentum and carry forward the tradition of citizen engagement and the expectation for citizen engagement that was part of that process. And so we've designed MyWorld 2030. It's very similar. It's also a simple survey designed to engage ordinary citizens. It's a global citizens survey led by the United Nations and using partners for implementation to engage people about the Sustainable Development Goals. It aims to capture citizens' voices to build dialogue between government and citizens, and this will be used to inform government action and official government reporting on their actions on the SDGs. The MyWorld 2030 is a survey for people from all around the world. It enables citizens to have their voices heard on what global goals are most important for them, and what's their level of satisfaction with the current status of implementation. The results will be used when we report to the high-level political forum and when governments report at the high-level political forum, which is the UN meeting for follow-up and review on the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs. The results will also be used extensively, as we did with the post-2015 results, at the local, national, and regional level to help ensure that our government representatives are making their decisions informed by these collective voices of people. And this will help to generate pressure and accountability against their commitments on the SDGs. This truly is an exceptional moment in time. The SDGs call upon all people to take action and all governments to take action. We've never called upon people to this extent to mobilize, and the MYWorld survey is an important tool from the UN to help make sure that citizen engagement happens. And we hope that you will help us in joining in this journey and becoming part of this initiative. MYWorld 2030, like its predecessor, is an anonymous survey, but we are asking participants to identify their gender, their age, their country, and their education level, as well as other demographic information, so that we can present a more accurate picture of who's been answering the survey and what people from different backgrounds think. The survey is collected online, but also through offline paper ballots and mobile phones. And then the responses are all compiled at a global level into one public database, which then you can use to see who's voting on which issues in different parts of the world. From now until 2030, we're hoping that we'll be able to use this tool to track in real time how people are perceiving the progress on the SDGs and how this varies across gender and across different backgrounds. It's an important tool to continue gathering people's voices, and we'll continue sharing these results with the Secretary General and with global leaders at UN events each year. Now let's take a quick look at what the voting platform looks like. If you haven't been there before, you can vote at myworld2030.org. This shows you a couple of screen captures of what the survey looks like. As I said, it's a very simple survey. It asks 3 questions. First of all, are you aware of the SDGs, or the global goals? Secondly, it asks respondents, which of the 6 goals are of immediate concern to them and to their families? And as you can see here, once they've chosen which goals are most important, they're then asked to determine whether they think the situation has improved or worsened on that goal in the past year. Now we're looking to be able to assess this data on a periodic basis so that we can see over time how things are changing with respect to citizen perception on the goals. And of course, at a national or local level, governments will be able to use this to monitor and track how people think that they are doing. How to participate. So this is what this is all about. How will you as a potential partner get involved in delivering this survey? Well, first, as Mitchell mentioned, is the registration process, and Guyan will talk a little bit more about that. First, you register as a partner, organize yourselves into a group if you're not already part of some representation or some organization, and then distribute the global survey. You can do this either online through social media or through the printed ballot at events. And then the survey responses are all captured under your own partner ID, so that anybody in the future will be able to see which votes you collected, how people voted. Of course, this is anonymous, you won't see exactly who voted under your partner ID, but you'll be able to have the votes that you captured associated with you and your partnership. And then these results will be presented in a visualization platform, which is actually available, but we're still tweaking to improve, and will be posted this month. Now I'll let Guyan, who's our digital strategy specialist, take you through some of the new resources we have to support partners on MYWorld 2030.
Hello everyone, my name is Gayan Pires. I'm a digital strategist with the campaign. I manage the technical backend of the MYWorld. So I'm going to talk you through the registration process for partners, but before that I will give you a brief overview of the technical details of MYWorld. So the current MyWorld platform is built on Google Progressive Apps, which is the same technology that's used by Twitter Lite application and Gmail, which means it is a mobile app, but you don't have to download it. It acts and plays like a mobile application, and it works with almost all of the modern browsers. And we will be opening up an API very soon where you can create widgets or sub apps and create Facebook apps, for example, and create your own campaign using MyWorld. For those of you who want to get more technical details, who are interested in technical details, we'll be following up with another webinar. We'll be sending you an invitation to participate in a more technical webinar where I will be going through the details on how to use the API, how to use mobile SMS, SMS votes, and if you want to create your own custom app, how to do that. So with that, I will go into the sub-site we have created for partners, which is called about.myworld2030.org. Again, it's about.myworld2030.org, and it is a one-stop shop for everything related to MyWorld. Here you will have about MyWorld, about the process, and bunch of resources which are related to you as a partner. It has the template for offline data collection. It has the template if you want to collect offline votes on paper. It has a bunch of design resources. It has information on how to use the MyWorld widget, and if you want to add a language or improve the language, it has the template for that as well to contribute. And familiarize yourself with this site, because we will be opening up partner sections on this site where you will have your own profile, your own area, and you can interact with network with other partners as well. The next slide is about how to register as a partner. It's www.myworld2030.org/register. www.myworld2030.org/register. There you can register as a partner. There's a form to fill in some information, and we'll be asking some basic information about you, the focal point, your organization, your country. At the same time, a focal point of email of the focal point, and how you would promote MyWorld in your country. And there we will ask you to create a partner ID for you. Select a partner ID, and please keep it very short because the URL with your partner ID will be something like www.myworld2030.org/partner/your partner ID. So keep it very short, maybe about 10 characters maximum. And this is the partner ID that will be carried with people when you share the URL, and when they vote, the partner ID will be registered in the system. And once you fill this form and submit, it will go into a system, and the team here will then look at your request and work with you on refining that request if needed, and approve the partner ID. Once it is approved, you can use that partner ID to collect votes. At the same time, you can use that partner ID for various different things, like visualizing, filtering the visualizations by your partner ID. So with that, I will hand over the mic again to Laura to go through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Gayan. Thank you very much. Just one thing to add very briefly to what Gayan said. When you are thinking about how to register yourself as a partner, when you're thinking about choosing a partner ID, please do keep in mind what Mitchell mentioned earlier. Try to represent yourself and who you truly represent. You may want to choose the name of your country, for instance, but obviously if there are others in your country who also want to take part in MyWorld, then you'd be taking away that branding for them in the name of their own country. So we would probably have to reject that partner name. We would hope that you would come up with something that's more directly related to you and your organization, so that others in your country can also have a role. Of course, if you as a partner have the endorsement of your national government, this wouldn't be the case. Then it would be absolutely appropriate for you to go ahead with the name of your country. And I also wanted to add that I forgot to mention this earlier, that we will have the opportunity for questions in this webinar. You may start to have some questions as we go through the material. You can already start typing the questions in the chat, or you can hold your questions and raise your hand at the end of the presentation for us to call upon you to ask your questions. Now, quickly, as you know, the Agenda 2030 aims to leave no one behind, and we know that there are still a lot of people who are not connected in this digital world, and so an important part of how we deliver the MYWorld survey continues to be on paper, through on-paper ballots and in-person connections going door to door. So I think that when you think about how you would like to engage in this initiative, it would be great if you would consider doing an offline campaign component of your work. You should organize yourself with a team of people to conduct the survey. We recommend a minimum of 3 people so that you can have some kind of scale in your initiative. And then as you go to the page that Guyan showed you, which is the about.myworld2030.org, and there you'll find the paper ballot to download. So far, we have a handful of languages available. Please do contact us if you would like us to add a language version, and you can possibly help with getting that version produced and translated. Of course, you print the paper ballots and then reach out to as many different groups within your community as you can. You might want to attach yourself to some kind of event or group that's also getting out into the community so that you can widen your reach. And when you've collected the paper ballots, then you have to fill in an offline data template and send those results to us. And please do make sure that you include your partner ID with that template so that we can make sure that the votes that you bring are associated to you and your work. And next, to talk a little bit about what resources we have in organizing yourself in an online environment, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Christina, who's a communication specialist with the team.
Thank you very much, Laura. This is very exciting. We've been waiting a while for MYWorld 2030 to really get big and get going, and this is a really exciting moment. As you see here, we have an updated logo with the very colorful SDG wheel. Actually, here in Bonn, we have a SDG wheel on our table here, so we have the colors reminding us all the time about the importance of the agenda. So as you see here, the MYWorld logo on the left side, it does not have the United Nations logo integrated within it. We did this for a very specific reason. This means that it can be much more global. Partners can really embrace this logo and use it with their work once they go through the clearance of becoming an official MYWorld partner. So we're very excited to show this logo here today. On the right side, this is our campaign logo, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Action Campaign. So this is a bit different from the MYWorld logo. We wanted to show them next to each other so you can get a bit of a better understanding on who we are and how we work together. In the second phase of partnership, after proven results are shown and momentum is created, some partners could collaborate more officially with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals campaign, and we can talk about that and work together where perhaps we can do some joint events and joint campaigns. So that's just a quick overview of the logos. Here there's a few graphics you can see that we're working on. Our team and design team is working together, and we would love input from partners as well. So there's just a few banners that you can see there. Here on the next slide, we are working very hard on this fantastic Trello board. This Trello board will be linked from the resources page, and this will be constantly updated with a lot of SDG resources. Right now there's already some SDG celebrity cards, some infographics, and some pre-populated messages. So our goal is for us to make this easy for everyone to really promote MYWorld 2030, and we will constantly be updating this with a lot of content. We also welcome partners and everyone to provide content that can be given to the rest, that can be adapted, that can be translated. So stay tuned on that page because we are constantly updating it. And one thing that we are excited to do is to showcase the amazing work everyone is doing in their communities. So we have a blog and we have social media channels, both for the UN SDG Action Campaign and for MyWorld. So we welcome all contributions with photos, with descriptions, with profiles. So there's the email address there, support@sdgactioncampaign.org, where you can send us everything and we would be happy to get back to you and give you guidance and support and also feature that on our channels. Finally, I want to talk about the Humans of MyWorld project. So MyWorld 2030, we are working to collect data, we're working to collect citizens' perceptions. But something very important to the campaign is people. And we want to show the human face behind the data. So the way we do that is through Humans of MyWorld. We have a Facebook page, I'm sure some of you know about it, where we showcase some of these personal stories of individuals all over the world who have voted in MyWorld. Everyone is welcome and invited to create their own Humans of MyWorld project in their own context. So as you go out and get votes, you can also have volunteers or ambassadors also interview people and ask them the same questions from the MyWorld survey. You know, which 6 of the global goals are immediate concern to your family? And normally from there, people have a personal story they would like to share. So we'd love to hear those personal stories and showcase it. We've had some youth advocates all over the world in over 35 countries already interviewing and conducting the photo series, and we use this content in many areas at the United Nations General Assembly, at exhibits, and we use these photos and these throng stories to get our message across to world leaders. I think that's it for the communication section, so I'll give the word back to my colleague Laura.
Thanks, Christina. And just before we close, we want to talk about one other way that you can take the MyWorld 2030 one step further. Humans of MyWorld is one way. We have the basic community survey, and we've also had some demand for going a little further, more in depth into what citizens' perceptions are around the implementation of the SDGs. I'd like to invite my colleague Anand, who's based in London, to speak to us about this last opportunity, and we're just going to make sure that we can connect with him. Just one moment. Anand? Anand, can you hear? Are you with us? Please bear with us. To give you a little bit more background, as I mentioned, you now have the opportunity, working with a national or potentially a municipality, to take the survey and modify it. We've developed a question library of more than 50 questions that are asking citizens their perception around the implementation of each of the goals. So there are specific questions related to each goal that take the survey one step further. So for instance, have you had any trouble accessing services in sanitation in the past year? Or do you feel safe in your neighborhood? These kinds of questions that will get a little bit more in depth to understand in a deeper level what's happening in communities and how citizens perceive what's happening. Do we have Anand? Not able to. Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. Hi, Anand. Welcome.
Hello. Apologies, I was just on mute, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. As has been said throughout the webinar, we're all super excited across the team. Some of us have been working on the MyWorld project since 2012, since its inception, and we're thrilled to have seen so many partners come on this journey with us throughout the project and stay with us through various iterations. And as Laura mentioned, we have really built out the community version once again, but due to demand from country offices, also from member states and governments, and in particular cities and parliamentarians, we've added this component of more bespoke custom surveys. And in order to facilitate that process, we have developed our own set of, which is actually close to 100 now, SDG questions, which have been developed into a question library. And these are questions that have been pulled together through consultation with academics and policy experts and civil society. They've then been tested for methodological rigor with a professional polling company, and we've now field tested these questions in 3 countries, in Kenya, Thailand, and the UK. So we're quite confident in the library that we've developed, and we've offered this resource out to any partners who feel that they may want to go deeper into particular issues of concern of their national development plans or their local development plans. And you can actually go into the library and build your own custom survey working with us. And we can actually help build out a bespoke platform and sort of work through the questions with you. So this is something that we're piloting. We've had interest from a number of countries: Peru, Mexico, Zimbabwe. There's a block across Asia through the ASEAN network who are interested in this. So this is a service that we're sort of piloting now, and if anyone's interested to explore it further, please do be in touch with us, and the contact details will be given at the end. And the full set of questions is open source, so that's also available on the resource page that was shared earlier. So in addition to the bespoke survey, the other option is to kind of ask the full set of, I think it's 93 questions now, working with a local academic partner or a local polling company. So what this allows you to do is ask us, deliver a scientific sort of product of tested questions which cover all of the SDGs. So some of you may be in a position where you're being asked to do a broad brush survey, and this academic instrument has been devised as well in order to meet that need. So in addition to the community survey that's largely been talked about today, we have a bespoke survey option, and then just a pure overall MYWorld scientific option of almost 100 questions. So those are the 3 options that are outlined there. I think I'll leave it there because I believe most of the partners on this call are interested in engaging in the community version of the survey. But do get in touch with us, and we can set up a dedicated call to talk through with you the options and the modalities for building out more nationalized or localized surveys going forward. Thank you very much. Over to you, Laura.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Anand. It's very helpful, and it is indeed an exciting opportunity for taking our work that much further. Just before closing, I wanted to remind everybody what this is all about. MYWorld is all about working with the United Nations, and with your help, we can help build public accountability and citizens' voices in this SDG agenda. And ultimately, our goal here is to create a better world. And on that note, I'm really pleased to open up 2 questions. I'll remind you, if you have some questions, to type them into the chat window or to raise your hand. Shall we start by taking some questions? Just one moment. Okay, we have Hanan Mohammed. We're going to unmute your microphone so you can ask your question.
For Disabled Peoples International in Europe, but as you know that these SDG are capable for transforming the lives of people with disabilities. So people with disabilities should aim for their SDG to be achieved with them, by them, and for them. So if there are any group or network for people, disabled people's organizations, DPOs, for this survey. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, thank you. I think if I may repeat the question, is there a network that we have already for people with disabilities to help support MYWorld? Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. So I'm actually very happy you raised that. I don't think we had this in the previous version of MYWorld. We have introduced the question as to whether or not people have a disability. So first of all, the standard version of the survey is tracking people with disabilities as, again, as part of this overall thrust of making sure that we're not leaving anybody behind in this agenda. As far as existing networks that we have, I'm not aware of any that are in particular. I'll ask if any of my colleagues are. No. Yes, absolutely. We think that it would be a terrific idea if you're interested to start one, and we can talk to you about that, about how we can support you in starting a network for disabled people. Next question. Kamal Spend, we're going to unmute your microphone.
Oh,
ahead,
thank you for unmuting my microphone. I did press it unwillingly. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Anyhow, I had a question which I already typed, so I can repeat it in audio if I may. In the registering form for partners, I would kindly ask if it's possible to put countries and territories, just so that we have it much easier for our partners to contribute, so that Kosovo can be written down. If that's possible anyhow, I would appreciate. I know this is not of concern of everyone. Thank you.
Okay, the question is whether in the registration form we're able to put the country or the region in the territory as an open form.
Territorial
so that it
region.
Can actually be, yes, exactly. The territorial region so that it can be entered directly. I'm just looking at Guyan, he's nodding, yes, that is possible. Thank you for raising that. We have another question from Aaron Wilkins. Please go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I'm Aaron Wilkins with Human IT out of Los Angeles. I was actually just wanting to touch base with you guys in terms of what are the capabilities of sharing the data from the survey if we're already collecting similar information, because we would be happy to integrate maybe some of these extra and additional questions into our own surveys as we go out into the community, to do digital inclusion events, which kind of consist of the online and offline surveys that you guys all touched on today. I didn't know if that's something that maybe you guys could touch base with me now, or if you can circle back to me offline to let me know if we can still use that data if we decided to use your portal instead.
Hi, this is Mitchell. I'll jump in with the answer to that terrific question. And as with our prior surveys, we immediately, as votes are collected, they are made available in an open source download, a raw download of a machine-readable format that can be used for integrating into all kinds of different displays. So we welcome that. We encourage it. We've seen amazing use of our data in the past for Harvard courses and other things, and the reason that it got so widely distributed is because of that openness. And so we are building that right into the core of this new version. And as Guyan said, we'll be following this with a technical call where we can go into deep detail about the plans for that and where you'll be able to download it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And quickly, just to add to that as well, our new visualization platform will make it very easy for you to share visualizations. You can download, you can sort the data how you want, and also download the image itself so you can share directly to social media. So we think a lot of the partners will be quite excited about that new feature, which all of them can use. Next up, thank you, Aaron. Next up, we have a question from Jose Mateo de la Cruz. Just one moment. Please go ahead.
Hello, good evening. Good evening. I'm coming from the Philippines. I would like to ask regarding Humans of My World and regarding the national partnership mechanism for My World. First, regarding Humans of My World, I would like to ask, can it be implemented as for example, my organization would be modeling a volunteer group for Humans for My World. Is it possible?
Sorry, I'm trying to understand the question. you're wondering, because Humans in My World can be used by anybody, and any group can contribute to it. It is hosted by us, and we do sometimes do more thematic topics in Humans of My World.
Okay, so we were just thinking if it would be implemented in a local level, we can gather volunteer. If we partner with My World and we gather volunteers, then they implement their own activities, and can it be featured in a local version of Humans of My World? That's what I was asking actually.
Yes. Yes, it can. And we can feature it in both languages, the original language and in English as well, to be part of the global Facebook page.
Okay. Regarding the second question would be the national My World partnership. In this case, can a youth organization be eligible for that partnership level?
This is Mitchell again. Absolutely, and again, most of the kind of we call it the sustainable resource of the global goals is youth energy and youth organization. So we're more than happy to do so. However, it needs to be restated again that we are a United Nations exercise, and we are composed of member states, which are national governments, and so they've asked us to help them, but they need to be involved. And so what we would do in your case is we would be happy to kind of talk through your ideas and coordinate with the UN office in the Philippines and try to see if there is a way to have this become recognized nationally. Now you can go about the exercise in your country on behalf of the global project and collect a set of data and show how it's working, and it might be easier to convince or engage the officials after they see that this is actually something that's producing results and that has an engagement with the youth. As you know, the governments are constantly trying to find ways to engage with young people and find out what young people are thinking. But it is it's a function of being very cautious about doing a national edition without support from a national government. But we'd be happy to support that further. Any general inquiries such as this, we do have an open help desk at support@sdgactioncampaign.org. Again, support@sdgactioncampaign.org. Thank you.
Okay. I asked that question because we have some partnership with the National Youth Commission, the Youth Ministry of the Philippines. So we would like to ask. We were asking this because we may pitch it to the National Youth Commission regarding this matter.
Well, that's fantastic, and that's exactly the right place to start. So you're already on your way, and so any support we can give you, we'll be happy to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, just to make it fair, we're going to break it up. We're going to go to some of the questions that have been submitted in writing. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're back. The first question is, what is the focal point or full name in the partner registration? The focal point should be the main point of contact for this partnership with My World. So you may not be the head of your organization, but you would be the person who's helping. Ideally, you're the person who is leading the My World project for that organization. Next question, may you please explain the steps to be able to do a My World survey? Okay, so here, a My World for a country. I think Mitchell basically explained that just now about how you can become My World representative for your country. It is about making that contact at the national level, ideally having quite a large presence. And we can help facilitate that, of course, because we have the presence in the country offices, and a very important part of our mandate is reaching out to the government and the UN country teams and making sure that they are also aware of the tools that we have to offer, and sometimes they become aware of the opportunities because of people like you reaching out to them. So it's best if we can approach them from both sides. If there's momentum and initiative from among the partners, by all means, please do reach out to your government. And equally, we're doing the same in a top-down way. Okay, so next we'll take, I think we took his question already. Okay, we have Hatim El Otmani. We're going to unmute your microphone for the next question. Hello?
My name is Hatim from Morocco, and currently we are working on launching an SDG action campaign in Morocco. We have already met many partners, such as the Parliament, and we have also contact with the UN office in Morocco, but also with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And my question is just about using the logo of MYWorld. Is it, for example, acceptable to use, for instance, I'm just giving an example, MYWorld Morocco, for example, just to give like this specific thing of like country or something like that. So thank you.
Yes, it was a little hard to hear, but I'm aware. And hello, it's nice to hear from you again. I think we met previously, and we're very excited to see the action that you're undertaking in Morocco. The question was, you know, you've started to gather partners, and you've reached the government in the UN office. Can you officially call it MYWorld Morocco? Now, that's a very important step because what you're doing is taking a UN project and making it representative of a country. And this is something that we take very seriously, and we don't have the mandate to approve without the government's buy-in. But your goal is definitely in the right track. We would love to see a national edition that is sponsored by the government, where the government approves of the exercise and the questions and agrees to use the input in their decision making. And I think that if you're going down that road, we want to support you and want to find the best way forward. Your question about the action campaign branding, I think Christina went over that a bit, where we have it incorporates the UN logo, and that's a very unique logo for us, and we need to make sure that that is maintained so that there's no confusion about what is who is the responsible party. So I know that you've considered having your own SDG action campaign. We want to promote that, but I think it's a special case that we have to be very careful with. But again, it comes down to the support from the government. So if there's going to be a campaign at the national level or a MYWorld exercise at the national level, and by calling it by country name, you are purporting it as a national level exercise, it has to come with the endorsement of the government. So if there, you know, and our job is to try to find a way to help you do that. You know, we don't want to kind of discourage you from doing that. It is, as you go through the various steps of doing MYWorld, first go out and just ask your friends and start building some volunteers and show that it's possible. And what we find is that it's much easier to convince governments and everyone else if you bring action and evidence of delivery of doing something, rather than just a proposal for what could be done in the future. So start small, start doing what you can, and show how that grows exponentially, so that they can't ignore it. They have to find a way to embrace it. And so we'll be happy to help you through that, and work with the local office to make sure that comes through, from their side as well. We don't want anyone to be surprised by this. We just want them to be delighted by the results. But we have to be careful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Excellent, thank you very much. So we'll take another question. Next up we have Shruti Kapoor, I think. Just one moment, we'll unmute your microphone. Go ahead, please. Shruti Kapoor. Excellent. Go
Hi,
ahead.
Laura. Hi,
Hi.
Laura and team. Thank you so much for a very, very interesting webinar. It was extremely informative. My question, there's some basic questions which I wanted clarified. One is, if you're an individual or a smaller organization who is interested in doing the MYWorld survey and taking it to their communities, what kind of support can they expect from the SDG campaign? And I think Michelle just answered some of it, saying that start small and then show their traction. But for some organizations and even individuals, like printing paper ballots also can be costly, depending on the numbers they're doing. So what kind of assistance is provided? by the campaign on that front? And also, are there any restrictions on age? Like, what is the minimum age of the voter for the survey?
Thank you, Shruti. Sorry for these delays as we manage the microphones here. We'll try to cut those down. Great questions, and yes, as I said, there's the organic growth and just going out and doing it, paper surveys. Yes, there are some printing costs and things, but what we have found in the past is that we can do a certain amount ourselves centrally with the the kind of central service, but we can't be part of the implementation of every exercise. I know that there's funding sometimes that are needed to do printing and so on. We just don't have the capacity at this point to do grants in that way. There, as we move through levels of partnership where there's additional government engagement and so on, what we often find is that there can easily be a program developed through the UN office to support this. We're constantly, as the UN, running projects that require monitoring and accountability and monitoring and feedback. And so the MYWorld exercise can be a very useful way of doing that feedback on a program. And so that there are ways to build this into a project that is funded in country. But at this point, we're not offering any kind of financial support. We found in the last phase with 2015 people were able to find local partners or local sponsors to do those things, and that exercise of finding a way in country actually emboldened and improved their projects because they invited more and more participants, more and more companies to join in. And I believe you had a second question that
about the age limitation.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. It is an anonymous survey, and it does allow for interviews with children. Now, this is, we will not take any personal information, we'll not store any personal information from the participants, but we encourage everyone to have access to this type of exercise. Now, what we may do in certain reports and views of the data, we might filter out certain age groups to just focus on certain demographics, but the important part is this is a universal agenda. Nobody gets left behind. It doesn't matter your age, no matter how young or old you are. We have to be very sensitive with the information and the data, but we're not collecting any personal identifiable information, and so that allows us to ensure that we can support all ages.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And Christine? Sorry about that. Just a brief additional note on the question of age. The only caveat really is with respect to the Humans of MYWorld photo campaign. There are specific criteria for taking photos of children, and you do need permissions. All of that information is available in the Humans of MYWorld toolkit. We'll go to the next question, please, from Shazia Lal Gill. We will unmute your microphone. Go ahead.
So thank you very much, Laura and the team, for arranging such a very interesting seminar. This is my first, webinar. This is my very first time to attend the webinar on SDGs. I'm from Pakistan and I'm working on SDGs, and there is a small project which I'm running at the moment. Now, my question is that we are going to do some service through MYWorld, and there will be some, there is a very interesting aspect which you shared, that library questions which we'll be doing. Is this data going to be presented at UN level or through MYWorld?
Are we live? Great. So thank you for the question. While we are going to offer the storage and the kind of the use of the data globally, we think that especially if we're going into the detailed questions, that is usually for a more local audience. Now, it's important for us, but we don't have a plan to present that officially at the UN. Now, this is, again, this is citizen input that is presented and made available to negotiators and to diplomats at the UN, but it is by no means an official UN report. This is something that is from the community, by the community, and for the community. But we encourage you to take advantage of that in the answers for local advocacy, for using in your own reports, reporting back to your government or your counterparts.
Another question I have, like, and on like when you read about SDGs, and there is nothing much about the people who get old, and some of them, they don't have any way of earning. Is MYWorld going to support them in some way?
Well, it will definitely be able to show that that issue in detail. I mean, if you were to do an exercise where you would actually go to the elderly, the aged, and ask for their opinions, first of all, that is an engagement in and of itself. But we don't have any programs designed to employ, for example, senior citizens in such activities. However, that is quite an interesting idea for you to consider pursuing locally. As you know, and in many cultures, the elders are very active socially, and they help with all kinds of betterment of society, and they want to help. And so I think it's a wonderful idea to engage them, and they have a lot of wisdom to share. But at this point, we don't have a formal program around that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna read the next question from the chat. It says, would the partner ID have levels? For example, can we have an umbrella ID and a chapter ID? We are introducing that, yes, and that was an outcome of the findings from the MYWorld 2015, where it is great to have one code, but then if you have a large number of people involved in that collection, it's nice to know which people or which groups are actually delivering the votes, so you can plan accordingly. At this point, we have one partner ID, but what we'll be introducing soon, and this will be covered in the technical call as well, is to be able to add sub-accounts to that partner ID. So in addition to showing each partner ID, you will be able to add a secondary identifier that will be within that partner ID, one of the kind of the implementers of the project. So great question, and it actually is supported. All right, so I'll hand back to Laura now. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and we still have a great number of questions coming in. So the next one will be from Ayanka Franklin. We're going to unmute your mic. Ayanka? Can you try unmuting your microphone on your side? Okay, we might go to the next question. The next person, we have Ashish Pandey. Go ahead, please.
Just I want to know who can be a partner, or what are the requirements to become a partner of MYWorld 2030, and can an individual be a partner of this program?
Yes, an individual can be a partner. We do recommend that you team up with some other people just so you can have more impact, but absolutely, it's open to anybody who wants to take part. The MYWorld survey, as well as the Humans of MYWorld, and please do reach out to us if you have further questions about that, and make sure you visit the resources on the page.
Okay, thank you.
I would just add that anyone can be a partner, and you can sign up for the partner ID, and as long as it doesn't contravene any of our basic policies, then we welcome you to use that partner ID. What we're really looking for is who's able to generate results, who's submitting data, who is succeeding in their campaign, because we want to make sure that we're supporting those who are building up and building capacity. So while anyone can start as a basic partner, what we'll watch for are those who are actually taking the action out, the most interesting representative populations that they're pursuing, and we'll call in those to suggest additional partnership levels.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we'll try Ayanka once again. Ayanka?
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Hi. Yes.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, we are starting. We started a focus on peace building magazine, and we want to engage African youths to be able to tell their stories for, well, in order to inspire others to create a better world. Now, I just wanted to know how MYWorld can help us, how we can be better partners with MYWorld Global Survey.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, you're already gathering voices of African youth. Is that correct?
Yes, already.
Okay.
Yes, already.
Yes. So, of course, if you do conduct the survey, or even if you don't, you can get online and see how the survey is rolling out among African youth. You have access to the data. You can also look at the data from the post-2015 version, MYWorld 2015, to see what the votes of African youth were, and you can report on that story, what has been said so far by African youth. You can also conduct your own surveys. You can reach out to specific communities that you're interested in tapping and learning more about what their views are. And Mitchell wants to add something to that.
Yes, just absolutely. There's a lot of partners who are undertaking the exercise, and there's no reason that you can't do other surveys and other data collection as well. What using MYWorld gives you is kind of an international standard set of questions that are very easily comparable. So if you gather data in your community, you can find other communities that have a similar profile and see what kind of solutions are working in those communities. So it gives you access to a number of resources that you might not otherwise have if you were just asking your own customized questions. It also provides a level of legitimacy for your exercise, because we can show that these questions have been vetted by marketing experts, research experts, and others, so that you don't have to worry about people questioning the legitimacy of your collection exercise. And finally, it also gives you a very credible way of showing your scope of outreach. If you can show that you are engaging and collecting information from people across many countries, for example, that'll be recognized, and that'll be something that's incredibly valuable as we grow out the larger global campaign for the SDGs.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for just one more question. There have been a lot of questions asked. What I would say is, if you haven't had a chance to ask your question, though you've raised your hand, please do send it in the chat. We will reply to all the chat questions, and we'll also compile a report from this webinar so that we can, over time, build a question and answer library related to this project, so that new people coming along will also benefit from the excellent questions that you've been asking in this webinar. So we'll take one more question, please, from Mustafa Algos. Please go ahead now. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. So also I am now talking from Turkey. We have organization. Also I talk about in my question too. We are working with the 40 universities in Turkey. So with the young groups, we have 3,000 volunteers. So we are like going to the universities and talking like you have to be volunteer for the better world. So in this project, like about MYWorld, so how we can join MYWorld or MYWorld survey, how can support us, or I don't know, just I want to learn.
Well, you know, first of all, thank you for what you've already done. I mean, by doing such work, activating and getting people engaged, that's the very first step, and you're doing that. So congratulations. The next step is giving them something to do, right? Something tangible, something that they can rapidly see results for, and that's where MYWorld comes into play. Now, as we mentioned, if you were to organize a sign up for a partner ID for your organization, once we have released the tool that allows you to create sub-accounts, you can then have all of those 3,000 register under your account, and then they can go out collecting votes under your partnership ID, and those will all be accumulated automatically just by using the system. That will all be taken care of for you. All you have to do is make sure that they're mobilized and encouraged to go out, and that they understand how to use the toolkit. And there's a wonderful toolkit available on the resources page that was just discussed. And if you share that with all of them, then you can undertake your own survey. And it might be interesting to kind of do a short-term exercise. Say, let's go out and collect votes tomorrow or next week, and we're going to see how many we get and what kind of responses we get. Because usually what happens is the first data you collect creates a lot of interesting questions. You say, oh, I didn't expect that to be the answer, or look at that, isn't that interesting? And it gives you a chance to go in a certain direction and asking more questions, either from a different type of group of people or what have you. There's also an initiative that we have that we'll talk more about in the future, the My Campus, which basically takes this same MyWorld project and makes it optimized for use within a high school, university, some kind of school setting, because it also provides some educational materials and others around using the results to foster debate and productive dialogue around the goals. So, there's very few steps to it. We've made it as easy as possible. You go to the web page, you create your partner ID, we quickly review them to make sure there's no conflicts of interest or other things, and then that'll be emailed to you, and then you can start using that customized URL with your partner ID immediately, and so integrate that into your plan. Now, you may find that some of the materials are not available in the language that you require, and what we do in that case is we challenge you to help us. If we can provide you with a translation spreadsheet or something that you can then fill out, and you can say, well, we call these X and Y, then we could integrate those into the system. We also have official UN translations for many of the goals, but not for the questions. So we can use some of that and get that started, but that shouldn't be a constraint. The localization is often an issue, and we're very happy to support the translation with your help, and with we'll credit you, of course, for helping contribute those translations. But the way that you start is by just starting. Ask yourself the questions, fill out the survey yourself, ask your brothers and sisters, ask your family. Just get used to the idea of asking these questions, because what you'll see is it's not just a question and answer, it becomes a discussion, and it becomes a learning experience for everybody who participates. So I encourage you just to try it, and then you'll see. All right, I'm going to hand back to Laura to close us out. Thank you.
Thanks for the answer, then.
Thank you very much, Mitchell, for those closing words of inspiration. It is indeed very exciting. We've had some terrific questions today. These were exactly the kinds of issues and questions that we were hoping to cover in this conversation. We know that there's still going to be additional questions, and there still are some in the chat that we haven't made it to. So I do apologize that we haven't made it to everybody. We will provide some answers in writing. In addition, as Gayan mentioned, we are planning follow-up webinars. We're planning a webinar on technical issues related to the platform and visualizations. We can also do a webinar related to communications and outreach. We've also had some demand for webinars in other languages. And so we know that we are preparing to do one in Spanish. I can do one in French. We'll translate the whole toolkit. My French is getting a little bit rusty, so you might have to bear with me, but we can also do one in French. And we can also, again, of course, take any questions at all at our email, which is support@sdgactioncampaign.org. You should see it on your screen right now. And you can also follow us on Twitter at SDGAction and at MyWorld2030. And I also would encourage you to visit our website and our social media pages, because they can provide a lot of inspiration for what other people are doing to implement MyWorld and how the innovative ways that they're getting involved in their communities and reaching out. We aim to capture what's happening out there. We do it online through our social media, but of course also we periodically get together, in particular at the Global Festival of Ideas for Sustainable Development, is where we come together each year in Bonn to celebrate the terrific initiatives of our partners. So keep that in mind when you're implementing and you're looking to roll out your MyWorld activity, because we would like to showcase the great initiatives and efforts of all of you. Without any further ado, thank you once again for participating, and we look forward to hearing from you and working with you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.